Howdy, howdy. Howdy, howdy. Howdy, howdy. Look, I've been watching you guys over here talking amongst yourselves. You do a great job talking amongst yourselves, by the way. Booger Dog, gotta be my favorite name of the hour. Booger Dog, thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Booger Dog, he's got he's got sugar vanilla extract, and he's talking about making a recipe tonight. Really appreciate that, Booger Dog. Lizzie's with us tonight again, and as always, I love having you, Lizzie. Michelle Faulkner's with us. She lives close to Jackson, Tennessee. She's got a flight leaving out of Nashville Thursday morning. A little panicky there. Jackson, Tennessee. Do you know my buddy Joel? Is that why you're with us tonight, Michelle? Joel, did he give you a little recommendation there? Because Joel and I have been talking this evening. He's a cool guy. I worked with Joel out there in Denver, Colorado before. He looks like Pitbull, but he's bigger and badder than Pitbull, actually. Joe Barnes, he is the man there in Western Tennessee, and we'll be talking to him probably from time to time as we move along. Lizzie's with us. Sam Cole's with us here tonight. And, well, thank you, Michelle. That's nice to know. And we got somebody, Savannah G's, checking in from the SIP tonight. Is that the Mississippi, or what part of the SIP are you talking about? Is that the Mississippi? We do have folks I know who are worried about the weather there in Memphis for tonight. We're going to be looking at that. That's not a tonight thing for you there in Memphis. You don't have any advisories there just yet, but that may be coming into the Mid-South, the western part of Tennessee, as we move along. And good to see you there, Michelle. Peter is with us tonight from Galveston County there into Texas. Peter, it's so good to have you here. I don't know if you're a first-timer here tonight. I don't recognize your name, but it's really nice to have you here with us as we take a look at what's happening across the area. We're going to be talking more about the forecast into the Deep South, all across southern Texas, central Texas, and beyond, and up into the Mid-South of western Tennessee, as well as the southern Missouri Valley and Oklahoma as well, where we do have some advisories that are going on tonight as well. So we'll be looking at all of that from the Red River area. Nice to have you with us here tonight. So as we look at what's going on, Peter, first time with us, and we've got Pleasantville, Ohio being represented. Connie Bosworth's with us tonight. It's good to see you here with us, Connie. We're going to be talking more about what's happening, but let's go right now to look at our advisories that we have. We have plenty of them. Winter weather storm advisories. The pink that you see is a brand new winter storm warning that is now in effect. It's going to be for that southern part of Texas, believe it or not. Just several counties down there to the south. It includes Austin, the Round Rock area there of I-35. You're under a winter storm warning now. Portions of south central Texas where there's an icy accumulation of up to 0.2 of an inch of ice that looks possible and probable now into that portion of Texas. Freezing rain could be falling as early as tomorrow morning across the warning area. That would be for those counties down to the south there that do include the Austin area over to Kerrville and into Fredericksburg as well. That is a winter storm warning showing up there across that region. Still advisories that go down to the south all the way down to Gonzales and to Brenham and beyond. You go a little bit further to the north, and we've got winter storm watches that are in effect. Corsicana, one of those areas is a winter storm watch. Significant icing is possible here, along with some freezing rain into the area. Portions of north central and northeast and central Texas from Monday afternoon into Wednesday. Look, here's the deal. This is the dealio, is that this is going to come in waves, in several different waves of energy that'll be working their way across Texas. They'll come up through Texas and work their way into the Missouri Valley. One wave goes by, another one is going to replace it down to the south. This is the subtropical jet stream that we often take a look at this time of the year, that once it gets in a track, it is very hard to see this thing budge from either direction, from north or to the south. So it's got a lot of leeway to go here. And it really depends on where the cold air is. It's a very shallow, not too thick of an atmosphere that has the temperature below 32 degrees that is responsible for this down at the surface. If it's a little warmer than that aloft, well, you're not talking about snowfall. So this is an icy mess in the form of either freezing rain or sleet, most likely. Both of them are an accumulating nightmare that can either accumulate on things, that's freezing rain, when it's a liquid that falls down at the surface, and right at the surface you got 32 degrees or below, or if you've got an area somewhere in between the cloud and the ground where the temperature goes above freezing and then goes back below, you can get a pellet to form, an ice pellet. So that would be called sleet, should that take place. Sleet and or grapple, you can get something like that. But the old sad story about this whole thing is the fact that once you have a snowflake that forms at the base of the cloud cover. If it ever melts, it can no longer be a snowflake again. It's a pretty sad story, actually, when you look at it overall. It must be a snowflake through its entirety. If it melts at any point, it has to become one of the other things, most likely graupel or some sort of an ugly-looking snowflake that comes down that's not really fun to play with at all. Back to the maps now. Winter weather advisory there from San Angelo, Brownwood. We're still looking all the way back to the west into Midland, Odessa, the Big Spring area. That's the winter weather advisory that's in effect there. Several rounds of winter precipitation are likely to occur across south central Texas. First round developing late tonight, continuing through Monday morning, and we'll look at that on the radar in just a couple of minutes. Portions of west central Texas all the way down through that area, the Brady line to San Angelo and beyond. Then you go further off to the north, we get into Oklahoma City. Well, let's just talk about Dallas first of all. Dallas is right in that region there where you're going to be in a winter storm watch, and that'll be for several days because it's the waves of energy that'll be coming through, and we'll look at all those. The new GFS modeling has just come in, and that'll give us an idea of these waves when they come through and just how much appreciable precipitation is going to be there. But then the advisory goes northward all the way over here to Oklahoma City. That's a winter weather advisory from when? That's 6 a.m. on Monday until noon on Wednesday, and maybe even beyond. That's sort of up for grabs there, too. 1 inch of total snow accumulations of around an inch north of I-40. Ice accumulations around 0.2 of an inch just to the south of I-40 into that southeastern area there, Okmulgee over to Fort Smith and beyond. And that goes northward all the way up here into the mountains, the northern sections of the Ozarks. Harrison back over along the region there. It looks like it's going to be from really I-65 to the east, it's US 65 to the east over to Cherokee Village, Pocahontas included there. That's the winter weather advisory that we have in effect, and it goes all the way to the north, almost to Chicago, but not just yet. Probably just off to the south of there is what we're looking at. Winter storm warnings in effect back here to the west over to Steamboat Springs, Fort Collins, up and down I-25 into the west over to the mountains. Same going on back into the west here. We got winter weather advisories over to Ogden, Salt Lake City and beyond, and then down to the south into southern sections of California. We have more of the same as well that we are looking at. Let's go ahead and look at the winter weather radar, and this is what's happening right now across the U.S. And let me get rid of that first of all because we can't really see what's happening here if we don't. I'm going to get rid of these advisories here for the short term, and we'll just talk about what we have as far as precipitation goes at this point. And still looking like we're going to see plenty of that coming down over the next couple of hours in the form of freezing rain or sleet. And a few of these isolated areas in particular that we're looking at is what we're really talking about. So we'll go down to the radar here. Let's just choose the radar overall, single-site radar into Dallas-Fort Worth. We don't have a whole lot going on there at the moment. A little bit of precipitation that shows up from time to time, but it's no harm, no foul. None of this is producing winter weather at this moment. A little bit of light drizzle here and there for some of these regions, but for the most part, we're looking at it being somewhat dry here to begin with, and the changes will occur as we go through time. We're probably talking about moving through the next several hours into the into the 36, 48-hour time period here is what we'd be looking at. Some of the precipitation coming down in Oklahoma City is of the same variety, a little bit of freezing rain or sleet trying to show up. Let me just show you some of the current conditions here with that. Actually, come back to me for just a second because I can just tell you what, the thing isn't giving us any information here for the moment. Let me restart this overall. I'm going to restart the radar Omega and come back to it. Let me tell you, I want you to ask questions too, by the way, if you want to. Sam's living in Collin County. Not really sure where that at. Pam is with us here. She's from Bandera, Texas. Thank you, Pam, for being with us here. Pam Cole joins us now. Let's see what we got. I can show you the radar here. MRS, please show up. Slim Shady. Winter weather now. See if I can find the modeling on here. If we don't have modeling, we're not going to it at all. Let's try that. So this is the new model. This is some of the new modeling that came in. Let's go to the GFS here for just a moment, though, because I know that new stuff is in now with the GFS. We can go upward with the model here and talk about what we've got with our precipitation data here to begin with. And as you can see it right now, we still have mostly rainfall into the eastern United States. But as we move along in time, now that's going through the evening here tonight and into the early part of the day tomorrow, we go through the 9 o'clock hour. Excuse me, 6 a.m. in the morning, 9. And then as we move along, none of this is moving up with us here at the moment. This is wonderful. I love the way this is actually working out for me here tonight. See if I can try the her here. All this worked a little bit earlier, but doesn't seem to want to at this point as far as the precipitation data goes. Let me show you some of the... I know, I love live television. That things work for me all day long today. You don't want to see my... Come back to me. They don't want to see my blood sugar. So come back to me here for a minute. Let's talk about some graphics here. That's my blood sugar. 124. Is that bad? This is the first time I've ever taken my blood sugar, and it was today because I was a little lightheaded. All right, we're talking about that. We're going to talk about that right now. Let's look at this satellite data here, which is something we do have working. And if you look at what we're talking about, you see what's happening over Texas here at the moment. And I want to show you the southwestern stream of the jet stream really picking up now from the southwest, coming across Mexico and coming back up into the western Gulf of Mexico. But we're energizing low pressure here that in time will make its way further and further to the east along the Gulf Coast and into the central sections of Texas throughout the rest of Kelly, is really 124 is great. That's good because it says pre-diabetic on the thing. All right, so visible satellite imagery, that's what we got going on there. And if we move along in time, I'll show you the other thing that we're basically looking at here is the amounts of precipitation that's going to be coming down because we also have flash flood advisories that are in effect here as well. We move along with the satellite data and just go forward. The Gulf of Mexico, the northern Gulf, is going to energize us a little bit, so we'll see some of the moisture coming back into eastern Texas with this as we go along and into the afternoon for tomorrow as well. So the timing on this is pretty critical as we move along. We'll start to look at what's happening into the big picture. Yeah, we'll do that. If you'll get it over there on the monitor behind me, I can probably deal with it there a little bit better. I have no idea why it's not coming up over here. There you go. So the visible satellite imagery. We'll move along with some of our graphics here to show you. There's a new meso discussion they just issued a few moments ago. This is for a flash flood advisory sort of a deal down along the Gulf Coast because low-level jet 30 to 40 knots is now picking up, moving in. That's southern Mississippi and Louisiana that we're looking at. I'm sorry. You got to go full screen with that for me. I am so sorry. My life is just so now my cat has arrived and we're not going to be able to use one of these monitors because my cat has messed everything up. I'm pretty sure my blood sugar is just way too high at the moment. It just feels that way, cat. We're not going to be able to work with this because of the cat. Stop. Seriously, stop. I can't breathe. Yeah, get down. I go back to the other thing. Go back to the other graphics there if we can. Jarvis running our graphics here for tonight. There's winter storm watches and advisories in effect in the purple and the blue coloring. It's a winter storm warning in the blue down there. Here's what Texas is saying. A winter storm watch, Kerrville to Rock Springs over to Fredericksburg and into Georgetown, Austin. That's where the winter weather advisory and storm watches are going to be. This is a winter storm watch for those counties, but really icy conditions. Look, I've heard people talking about the fact that how much ice is enough to be worrisome. It's like this much ice is enough to be worrisome, like this right here. Now, the only thing that thickness has to do with anything is when it gets thick enough, you can have power outages. When you're talking about weight, that's when it can become a problem. So basically what we're thinking here is that as long as we're not talking about weight, we'd be okay with the power outage. It's not funny. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing about that. It's just, can my life be any worse at this moment? Because of what's happening. So here's your low pressure there along the Gulf Coast. This is the thing that we're watching here. I say along the Gulf Coast. There might be some really bad flooding taking place along the Gulf Coast throughout the rest of the area there. And it'll continue to move on to the east across the region there. I'm just so sorry because I don't know what to do about the cat. The cat broke in, and now she's determined to catch the mouse on the screen. And nobody's awake to take the cat away. So, Collin County, Texas. Okay, that's very nice. Really stop. No, stop, Jarvis. Go back to full screen. Something other than that. Let me try to start it again over here because this is not the way it's supposed to be. It's loading. It just took it a minute to load. Let's go back to my iPad. So sorry. That's so unprofessional. To have your cat up here acting a fool. Oh, I can't breathe. All right, let's try this. This is the M3K. And precipitation. Okay, here's what we got at the moment. Sit down, cat. Yeah, sit down. Here's what we got at the moment. This is the damn 3K, and this is what we're looking at, and it goes on out. I'll be able to show you that to its entirety. So we go through the night tonight. This is 10 p.m. tonight, and I guess we don't have the times blown up there, but 10 p.m. tonight. There's the precip running through Alabama. Look, I can tell you, it's pouring and dogs in Alabama tonight. I mean, it is coming down. It has been for a while now. The only area of precipitation that we see in our forecast, this is 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, has a mix from Jonesboro, Arkansas, northward up to Poplar Bluff, and into Jonesboro, Cape Girardeau area. That's what the model says for early tomorrow morning, the 3K NAM model. And then starts to show a little bit of precip beginning to show up around Lubbock into Midland, Odessa, Abilene, and that kind of thing. But it's all rainfall down to the south into Austin. We go through the day, 8 a.m. or so, 9 a.m., and now's when the moisture starts to get into the cold air up here into Oklahoma City, where we'll be talking about the temperatures there. In fact, we'll just look at some of these temperatures, the actual temperatures, which are already well below freezing. We've got 20s, low 20s showing up here into Oklahoma City. Into Norman, Oklahoma is 21 degrees. That's not going anywhere. That cold air is going to be sitting there during the day tomorrow. So that'll be a pretty big deal overall there as we move along. Into the Dallas region here, well, we got temperatures that are above the freezing mark in Dallas. We got 31, 32. It's 31 right now at the D. At Fort Worth, we got 30 degrees at the moment. So if the precip gets in there fast enough, this will be of a frozen variety, not a snow variety, a frozen variety. So then we move along here, and I'll show you as the precip really starts to gather and then starts to come down more concentrated. The precipitation will be more concentrated by then. Let me get rid of the METARs for a second so you can see the actual data. Now we've got precip mixed bag. This is freezing rain and sleet that'll be showing up down to the south. It'll be freezing rain to the north. This purple down here is going to be the sleet that is falling. This would be sleet right through here, and this would be freezing rain further to the north. This would be a freezing rain event for Sherman, for the Red River, up here to McAllister. Somebody is with us from the Red River, but I don't know exactly where. Lubbock, Texas, not this go-around. Not for Lubbock. That's too far back to the west for this go-around, but watch what happens here shortly. Lebanon, back over to Springfield. Now you're just to the south and east of I-64. 44. And that's going to be some heavier precip here that could be problematic. This is going to be freezing rain. Now, what's the difference? Freezing rain. So this is freezing rain is where you have, it starts as a snowflake from the cloud, but then somewhere in the middle there's going to be an area of warmer air, warmer than freezing. So when that happens, then you end up having either a rain event come down or on contact now with the temperatures below 32 in this area around Ozark, Springfield, up to Farmington. When it's 32 or below, it will freeze on contact. Whatever the liquid falls onto, it's going to freeze onto that. That is called freezing rain. And that's where it gets nasty up there in the mountains into Branson, Missouri, southward over to the West Plains area. This is going to be at 5 p.m. tomorrow evening, which would be into the downtown area of Dallas-Fort Worth. Now, I don't know if the precip is going to be enough at that point for it to be problematic. I know it won't take long. and it only takes a little bit of something frozen to cause a huge, huge problem. That's up to 6 o'clock. We go a little bit further in time. Now we've got frozen precipitation into Adair there on the eastern side of Texas, south and eastern portions of Oklahoma, goes over to Russellville, then into the Russellville-Conway area. You got more precipitation there that's going to be in the mixed variety. That's going to be right through here, and you can see it's mixed to the north. This is where the temperatures are going to be below freezing up into these areas, and that'll continue to be rainfall down to the south. Pine Bluff, El Dorado, back all the way over to Alexandria, Baton Rouge. That's going to be some rainfall there, too. It doesn't turn to snow until you get north into Indianapolis and Cincinnati, but there's not a lot of moisture there at that point. So back in here again where we go to the problem. This is the first wave of energy coming into Memphis. Now you're into the Mid-South. A couple people were joining us there from the Jackson area. This is what the NAM 3K is telling us into the Jackson area by early. This will be 11 p.m. tomorrow night. I was going to say early morning on Wednesday, but this is actually still tomorrow night. 11 p.m. tomorrow night. Now we got freezing rain and a mixed bag coming into Memphis, into both sides, coming across Blytheville and Dyersburg, back over to Union City where the old Goodyear Tire and Rubber plant used to be up there. Then into Jackson, probably sometime just thereafter. Look at this line. My buddy there, Joel Barnes, who's doing the weather there in Jackson, I feel so bad for him because I used to do the weather in Chattanooga, Tennessee for many, many years. And I know this is one of those situations where you get a very thin layer, a couple of thousand feet up, the temperature is below freezing, and it's so hard to tell exactly where that's going to go, especially here in the dips and valleys of Tennessee, where you can get a couple of thousand feet over at Mont Eagle Mountain into the Cumberland Plateau area there. It doesn't take long, but this stuff hugs close to the ground, and sometimes it has to go through the valleys in order to get to you, so it slows down. The whole process slows down anyway. And there's not a perpendicular wind that's coming in with this. The upper level wind actually that's going to ride this along is going to be somewhat parallel to the flow. And with that happening, it's not a driving. It's not what we call cold air advection, sort of a situation. We're not seeing cold air come from one direction and go in the other. It's not like this. So when you get it perpendicular to the front, then you can see movement. But this isn't going to be that way. The jet stream's coming in from the southwest, and as long as that does that, that's a perpendicular sort of situation, which, really we'd be talking about the threat for a large amount of rainfall here if it weren't for the fact that we're still talking about some isolated areas of patchy icing that would be occurring. And again, to show you exactly where these are would be foolish because it is not an exact science. At the moment right here, it's I-40 to the north, looks basically to be the area of most concern. I-40 to the north and west, up into the Dyersburg area there, back over to Union City, as we said. And I don't see any of this really being snowfall. I think all of this at some point melts from the cloud somewhere in between. So it has to become one of those other things that we were talking about. And it is a super cold rain into Pine Bluff, Stuttgart, back over to El Dorado, as we said, and down into Texas here. Still some cold air trapped into Palestine and Waco area, but there's not a lot of precipitation. There's really no low pressure that's driving all this moisture northward at this point. Wave number 2. Here it begins. You can see it already gathering back to the west, starting to move a little bit further to the east, but there's the second wave that'll be coming in out of the southwest. It'll make its way across southern Texas and into the rest of the flow as we move along. Watch what we do. That's 7 o'clock on Tuesday morning. 7 a.m. We go forward in time. Here comes the wave. 11, 12. Now we're into Tuesday, the latter part of the day on Tuesday, and that little area there passes on by. The most moisture with it comes about 4 to 5 p.m. on Tuesday. It passes on by, and then the next wave of energy already loading up back into the southwest. It'll start to move to the east, the Midland, Odessa area, the Abilene area there, where it looks like more of this precipitation will work its way in as we move on through. Let's go to the GFS because this is our brand new modeling that just came across a few moments ago. It's actually still building now into the latter stages of which, but we'll watch the waves of energy go by. This is the Tuesday wave that heads on out of the area. The Wednesday wave is approaching from the southwest. This one has a little bit more moisture with it coming into the Weatherford, the I-20 area that goes back over to Big Spring. This is where we'll expect to see most of that moisture picking up early in the day. That is your mix there from Abilene beyond. It's a cold rain all the way around it where you see the green coloring, at least as far as the GFS model has this. Really starting to see, now we got warm air advection. We're seeing a knob of warm air come in from the south that's coming northward, and as a result, we'll start to see the temperatures warming just a tad here instead of cooling. We don't have cold air advection. We got warm air advection with actually, I think, a little bit of a warm front starting to show its side there. That's coming across the Red River Valley there. This is 6 p.m., and then we'll start to see probably some of that cold air waver southward again. We'll get back into that flow as it goes on to the east. That's your other wave that goes on by. And then as we go through the rest of the week, we start to see some clearing and drying. And just to show you the rest of the model, I thought we were going to have another system come out of the southwest early next week, but it's going to be a little while longer before that actual system does. But it is a wet forecast here as we move along over the next several days, actually over the next 300 hours, so 10 to 14 days on down the line is what we're looking at. Let's talk temperatures, because that's the other part of this. It's really important as we move along. Where we see the thermometer dipping below freezing or right at it is going to be super problematic for us as we go through time. And where are these temperatures like that? Well, Dallas, if we're just looking at the modeling here overall, Dallas, you're in that area where it's a close call. This is during the afternoon on, let's go by the afternoon on on Monday, actually. So we're going to Monday at 3 o'clock. Monday at 3, we're still in the 40s in Dallas at the surface. You don't really find the 30s until we get a little bit further off to the east. You can see when we get over to Burke Burnett here into the Wichita Falls region, just to the west of Bowie. 38 at Gainesville, Ardmore. It's so close. That line there of demarcation is so super close. I mean, if you just draw exactly where you think this is going to be, the freezing line, it's something like this here. So anything that's above it, anything that's up in here is going to be frozen, and anything below it is going to be in the liquid form as it comes through and moves through the general area there, as we saw it just a little bit earlier. Let me see if I can show you one other thing. Let's go back to the HER model here just a little bit, and we'll look in time to see what's happening. Again, as far as the temperatures go, which is pretty key to us at this point, especially that Dallas-Fort Worth area is what we'd be looking at. And there's some cold air there for a little while, but the precipitation as it goes on by is mostly going to be a form of rainfall there to begin with. I can just show you really quickly here the freezing rain QPF. If there's any at all, that's bad. And there is. You can see as we go through the line here, the freezing rain starts to be appreciable sometime around Monday at noontime in all of these areas. That's a little band that goes down to Enos, up to Sulphur Springs Parish, down to Killeen, into the junction area there in Big Lake. That little bit right there is problematic. It doesn't take a whole lot for it to be a big problem there across the region. Good morning to you, Sunshine. Michael Beard joins us now with his presence. It's always nice. There should be a drum roll or something when Michael joins us. It just feels like it's time for that. West Plains over to Poplar Bluff. This is the freezing rain zone. If you add in, what do we got? Total snowfall, there's not a lot here, folks. If you like snow, this is not your event. There's a little bit of snow here, Fort Fayetteville, back over to Fort Smith. There's a little, not a lot there, and it'll be mixed, even that. If you have snowfall, it's going to be mixed. Now, some of the snow starts to move on to the east. By the afternoon, we should see it coming into Pittsburgh, into Morgantown, the West Virginia area there, Cleveland. And then we got a little southwesterly that'll be coming across the lake here in Lake Michigan that should bring some snow to Kalamazoo and to Holland. On the east side, that would be your lake effect snow that should be occurring late into the day as we go through time and coming across Lake Michigan just like that. As you can see, that's what should basically happen here with that south and southeasterly flow coming in across the lake. That was a horrible arrow, and I apologize for that. Bigger snows out to the west. You can see those again into the Colorado Rockies and beyond. How much precipitation comes down, and this is going to be problematic for several different reasons in several different places. Total precipitation here is quite a bit into the deep south. This is through Tuesday. Let's just go into that's 42 hours. If we use the GFS, we can move a little bit further down the road and show you some of these QPF totals, quantitative precipitation forecasts, how much is going to be around. is quite a bit moving down the road here. This is going to be across central Alabama, Birmingham, Tuscaloosa to Gadsden. I think the yellow area here is indicative of 3 inches. The orange area is 3 inches. So you got 2.5 to 3 inches. And that goes all the way back over to Jackson, Mississippi. 3 inches is possible. I went too far Sunday. Let's back this up and go like to Wednesday and see what we got. Wednesday, Thursday. So the second system comes through. 1 to 3 inches looks like it's possible into this region over to Nacogdoches, Texas, Natchitoches, Louisiana, Nacogdoches, Texas, down to Austin, and into the Kerrville area. So lots of precipitation going on from here to there, and a little bit of everywhere is kind of what we're looking at there. Tanya's with us. Get something. Tanya's with us. Which part of the coast? The areas that were hit a few days ago will have more rain and storms. Which part of the coast? The areas that were hit a few days ago. Well, all this is still going to run along the Gulf Coast. Let's just go and look at the precipitation, the composite reflectivity, if you will. Here's a look at what the radar might look like through this period if you were to just be talking about the actual radar imagery. And get rid of that. Let's do this. So we'll move along. That's into your Tuesday morning, and that's the precipitation. This is just liquid now. Texarkana back over to El Dorado. That goes northward and then flattens out. And here's the big problem. Here's where the jet stream starts to come in from the southwest, not out of the north. We're not pushing it along like this. That's problematic. That means we're just kind of riding it along. The jet stream will come out of the Gulf of Mexico, and you'll also see moisture out of the Pacific. That'll be coming across southwestern sections. The area there, I was going to say it's Mazatlan. And out of that region there basically is what we'd be looking at. And then traveling across the rest of the deep south and the upper portions. Might even make it into the Carolinas here. And it's still not cold enough for that to happen. A lot of people are asking about Nashville. And earlier in the week, I know the National Weather Service in Nashville was really worried about this. And there's still reason to believe some of this could be frozen on the northern fringes. If you check this out, we'll go back. I'll just put precipitation type. This is during the early part of the day. This is midnight tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, midnight. And that's when some of this could be on the frozen side into Tennessee, into the Nashville area, Davidson County. Temperatures are going to be critical there, about 32 degrees or so. So some of that could be a mix of sleet or freezing rain across central sections of the Cumberland Plateau. If we move that along into the 6 a.m. time frame, it's all gone by then. But look, here comes the second wave coming in by the afternoon on Tuesday that probably brings in the same sort of thing. This is when that Jackson forecast gets pretty worrisome here into Jackson, Tennessee, because that's your second wave moving in, and this is the GFS. We haven't looked at this yet. 48 hours from now into the 6 p.m. time frame from Memphis up I-40 over to Jackson and then straight on over to Nashville, Tennessee. That's when it's all critical. That's when some of this moves through and could be at a critical stage of being frozen right through here. It's not going to be snow. It's going to be freezing rain or sleet, probably sleet for the most part, which would be pellets that would be coming down from the sky and moving on eastward over to Nashville and then go all the way down to Stuttgart and beyond. There's not tons of precipitation here, but enough, it just takes a little to cause a problem. And the thing about it is that the waves of energy will be continuous. There's another wave coming into Memphis. That might bring some moisture back into Jackson again on the western side and then push it on to the east. Here comes a little bit of precipitation. Now, Joel was talking about this. Joel Barnes, I saw his forecast a little bit earlier in Jackson, Tennessee, and he was talking about the fact that this little last area cycle of precipitation coming in would probably have a little bit more of a southerly to it into the mid-levels, which would have this changing over to rainfall and probably staying as rainfall through this event through the day on Wednesday. And then into, this is a Wednesday morning, Wednesday noontime, and here comes the next wave up the line out of the southwest. So the low pressure, by wave, I mean the low pressure center itself will be coming up along the line. There'll be a wave of energy about right here that'll be entering western Tennessee at this point during the afternoon, and then that's going to bring in a southerly around that, a little bit of a warm front that until that goes on by, it doesn't bring anything back to the south again as far as cold air. So probably going to be a wave of wet liquid that I don't know, is there another kind? Wet liquid. of all liquid. And in this case, it would just be all liquid falling from the sky, not frozen at this point. Yeah, so that passes on by and then is in and out of the area here. Come back to me for just 1 second here because I got a graphic I want to show and I don't want to do it live and mix everything up. I love those little transitions you got, man. Those are so cool. I don't know what they mean or if they're serious at all, but I like that one. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about, let me see if I can find it here. There's some cool things that have happened here. Did you know, pull up this graphic for just a minute. Did you know that I-95 on the East Coast, there's a bunch of whiners over there, a bunch of people on the East Coast who are whining right now because they ain't got no snowfall. New York City, only a trace of snowfall so far as of today. The latest first measurable snow in New York City is an inch and 8/10 on January the 29th of 73. So it is a pretty big deal. You're looking at a 50-year deal here since records began in 69. So that's a big time record being broken here. The least total snowfall for the entire winter is 2.8 in 1972-73. It's hard to say, one little low pressure that's off the coastline can get rid of that really quick. But I thought that's pretty awesome. A wild stat, I-95. Where is the snow? Only a trace. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania is the same. Only a trace of precipitation. None in 72-73. They didn't have any snow. That's the latest first measurable snowfall. It's none that they had in 72-73, and that's a record from 1884. Wilmington, Delaware, a trace. And you can see these are records here that have been showing up. And, I mean, some of these go back into the late 1800s, actually, that are either going to be tied or broken, or they'd be the new record to actually take place. So come back to me here for just a second. And we're going to do this the primitive way by voice, actually, by voice cue. And the other thing that I wanted to show you here, just so you can get an idea of really what we're talking about, and it's not going to be that. It's going to be, that'll work. Let's try this. Let's talk about this. The difference between precipitation here, what we're talking about, folks, is graupel, hail, or sleet. And graupel is just that area where the snowflake has melted and then suddenly refreezes. It gets this little rime icing that's on the outside of the actual snowflake itself, and it comes down like a little ugly snowflake. I mean, they're ugly. It's not like you can make a snowball out of graupel. You can make one, but you'd kill the other person if you threw it at them. It would just cause bodily harm. There'd be bleeding. It would be a really bad thing. Hail, on the other side of things, hail forms when you've got precipitation going up into a cloud. There are updrafts that are driving the hailstone way up there to where it's cold, and it freezes on that. The liquid just keeps freezing. It develops a core around it. This can happen during the summer quite oftentimes, and it's a it's a situation where this happens and it doesn't melt before it makes it down to the ground. And then the sleet is just a hard translucent ball, if you will. It occurs when there's partial melting somewhere down along the column until it freezes again before getting all the way down to the surface. And you can see this is a little graphic that we sort of drew up for you here. Rain. See this little warm air pocket, that little triangle that's orange there? That kind of shows you. We start out at the top, across the top, with all snowfall. When it falls out of the cloud, when it comes out of the cloud, it's got to be a dendritic shape. It's got to look like a snowflake at that point. If it comes down and it warms up and it's warm all the way down to the ground, then it's going to be rainfall. Look at the next column. If it comes down and it falls into an area right down at the ground where the temperature's below freezing, it ends up being freezing rain. It's a liquid falling onto a surface that is below freezing. Sleet is somewhere in between, where it falls down and there's enough time for it to go ahead and refreeze again as a little ball. And then the very end, the end of this right here, this is what you want to have, which is much more pleasurable. It is much more about scenes of frolicking into the winter in snowfall. Much easier to drive in this kind of a situation too, and less people are often in harm's way when you get snow, total snow, that would be falling into the area too. So come back to me for just a second, and we'll move across the board here. Do you have any questions? Anybody got any questions? Jennifer, thank you so much. Jennifer, hey to you. Hey back to you. Skylar Jackson's with us. You don't want the power to go out, that would be. But go ahead and plan for that, Booger Dog. Plan for that. Booger Dog went to St. Pete for Christmas. Dragonfly in the Ozarks, cold air and snow, then a layer of warm air. Is that a question? I don't know. Josh, good to see you here tonight. Crazy Colombian is with us. WKRP, hitting the ground like sacks of wet, and as God is my witness. I thought turkeys could fly. Is grappa wet? It can be wet. It's mostly dry, though. Grappa is kind of a dry situation because it freezes real hard on the snowflake and comes down, and it's like a frozen little... You can hear grappa. It kind of reminds me of, what's that? What's the new craze that's not new anymore? The little things that you buy, the dry pellets that you buy. Grappa, if you take grappa and you go like that, you can hear it in your hand. Let's go back to the model. No, that's bad. Don't. Let's see. What do we got here? Anybody? Has anybody got a question? We're getting statements here. G. Ferraro, it's good to see you, Ferraro. It's always nice to see you. You grew up in Brandon? Okay. Dippin' Dots. Thank you, Mike. Dippin' Dots. Dippin' Dots. Don't they call that the... something of the future, the something of the future, which is it not? It's been out for about 30 years. It's time for a new slogan. By the way, they're probably not going to sponsor us anytime soon because I just blew it. I just blew all of our sponsorship right out the door right there. Let's look at our satellite and see what's going on here, because don't you just love to? Let's see what's happening here with the satellite. That looks crummy there. How about this? So here's kind of our first water vapor, if you will. Oh, I hate that. 7 frames. Let's don't do 100. Let's do 50. Let's do 50. There you go. So it's pretty easy to see right here where everything's coming in out of the southwest and jetting off to the north and east. This is riding in on that subtropical jet stream. We don't have much of a jet stream from the north, although we have enough cold air right through here to cause our problems. But now the southwesterly is coming in. The subtropical jet stream is moving on. And as a result, we're seeing some of the colder air mixing in. This is called overrunning. When you actually see cold air that's already out the surface and it gets squashed down there and it can't go anywhere, we're overrunning moisture on top of that. So in this case, it's creating an overrunning situation where you just don't have the whole atmosphere thick enough to support snowfall at this point. It's only at its minor stages there. This is not a situation where you get a big snowfall at all. To get a big snow out of the Gulf of Mexico that would bring snow everywhere, again, it starts into the Gulf of Mexico. It starts with a low pressure somewhere down here and moving like this, and that throws back a lot of moisture, but also into the colder air and sort of these areas, right? Oh, don't draw that, Dave. Sorry. That was about to go bad. All right. So there's our satellite too. Get prepared for gas for generators, food, etc. It's a good idea. Getting prepped for gas for your generator, that kind of a thing. Make sure you have plenty of light. Lizzie, it's so great to see you here this evening. Lizzie's with us quite often. Is there a meteorological reason the weather in upstate South Carolina is so boring? I'm going to guess mountains, geologic, maybe. South Carolina is so boring. Boy, sometimes we have a South Carolinian who is on with us from time to time. Looks like, so you've been over to Lee County doing a little hunting. Booger Dog's been over there doing a little hunting in Eufaula, Alabama. Lee County. Yeah, because Jarvis is with us. He's from that area, and a couple other people are as well. And our director tonight, and it's not all the time boring. I can tell you that. It's every place has its sort of pluses and minuses when it comes to, I guess, the excitement to weather. Alabama is one of those hot spots because in Alabama you have the possibility of having a big snow every 4 or 5 years because of the Gulf, the proximity to the Gulf of Mexico. And it's also there, the Gulf is there to provide moisture very rapidly for severe weather. And then quite typically as you move further to the east, I'm going to have to draw this out, I think. Let me draw this out. This is the only way I think I can do this to where it makes any sense at all, and it still may not. I'm going to change this. Go back to my computer here for just a second. But it's a legitimate question, and I'm going to give you as fake of an answer as I can come up with here. Let me show you what is predominantly the thing. So if you look at the map here, first of all, I'm going to put this in I should probably go black, I guess. And there we go. So you got the Great Smoky Mountains over here on the eastern side of Tennessee into western North Carolina. The Great Smokies, and they go all the way up through Virginia like this. Well, so in some situations, I got to back out here. Probably need to do it a little bit more. Sort of like this. At this time of the year, what's happening here is that when you're dealing with cold air, when you're dealing with cold air like this, cold air is very dense, so it weighs a lot, so it's going to hang near the ground. Cold air does not extend very high up into the atmosphere in most cases. It is very thin layered. It's like in your home. If you have 2 stories to your home, even if you don't, the warmer air is up at the top. Same goes into a balloon. The hot air goes in the balloon because it rises faster in the environment that it's in. So the top of your, inside of your attic is always really, really warm because that's where the hot air wants to go. It wants to go all the way through, but your roof is holding it in. It's not that asimilar in that, okay, so you get cold air that comes in here, and it's hugging the ground. So the cold air passes on by, gets over here, over the mountains, the Great Smoky Mountains and the Appalachians. So then it gets trapped over here into the Virginias, into West Virginia. The cold air is still low to the ground. It's low to the surface. And so now it's kind of trapped over here. I'll draw it in blue to show you. In most situations, here's what's left over with the residual cold air after a cold front goes through. And so it kind of sits here like an Oscar Mayer wiener. And it's sitting there, and because there is high pressure predominantly most of the time off to the north like this before another system comes in from the southwest, if you've got low pressure back to the west like this, I have to draw it in red in order for it to actually be official. You got high pressure here, and the high pressure winds around high pressure go clockwise. So now we drive chilly air, and chilly air is stable air. So we're driving chilly air down on the eastern side of the Appalachians, and we can drive that chilly air all the way down to Atlanta, actually into West Alabama. This is stability. This is the reason for the stability after these fronts go through Alabama, and you go, hey, you're not covering me anymore. And it's because we're not covering you anymore because the likelihood of tornadoes and severe weather is waning quickly because of this stability that you see over here into North Georgia, into northwestern South Carolina, and the rest of the area. That is a stabilizing factor. We call it the wedge. I call it the wedgie on television because it makes my kids laugh. You can call it cold air damming, CAD. Sometimes we call it that. But what's happening is the atmosphere is not thick enough, the cold air is not thick enough to come over the mountain, so it gets pushed up against the Great Smoky Mountains, the eastern side of the Great Smoky Mountains, and then travels all the way down here. Like I said, I've seen it come all the way down to Birmingham like this, really, the wedge, which has a stabilizing factor on anything that's coming in out of the west. So timing-wise, at least most of the time, timing-wise, these systems that come across from west to east during the heat of the day, which is prime for them, the heat of the day, which is when they have the ability to see the atmosphere rise very rapidly. The heating adds to that, the ability to rise rapidly. The heating of the day allows that to happen, even if it's only minor heating. It's terrestrial, so even if it's that kind of a thing, it looks like it's pretty much doing its thing there. So the cold front goes on to the east. Now we just got the cool weather sitting over in Atlanta, but the cool weather goes from Clemson. It goes all the way across northern sections of South Carolina, and it is a stabilizing factor. Now, what it takes for you to get severe weather there is a little bit more of low pressure down to the south. As the low pressure is further down to the south, now you're talking about bringing air from the Gulf of Mexico like this and from the Atlantic like this, and now you're already pulling it northward along what would be a warm front in the general area across South Carolina like this. So this is how you really get the warm air to come northward. It's all about the warmth of the air. It's all about the instability of air. The warmer the air mass is, the more unstable the air mass is going to be. So you need low pressure further down here to the south. And this is what would come out of the Gulf of Mexico as a low pressure, really, or riding the southern Gulf of Mexico and then bringing it back up and across this area of South Carolina for you to get severe weather there into South Carolina. There also has to be some reason for spin. That low pressure needs to be much closer to you. And in general, this time of the year, low pressure systems, in general, what they like to do is come in out of the west like this and quickly start to move northeastward like that. They don't often dip too far down to the south unless they originate somewhere down here, down into the Gulf of Mexico and move across like this. So it's really about the origination of the low pressure center itself and about how close you are, because the closer you are to the low pressure center itself, the more the veering is with height. When you go up into the atmosphere, the winds are coming in from differing directions at that point, and that starts the spin, the vorticity, the spin, the ability to rotate. And so you'd need low pressure to you a little bit closer. Now, the other part about this is that your weather's not boring because you're there right along the what is the Gulf Stream that is bringing warm temperatures. Sea surface temperatures are going to be warmer here. I don't know that I've got sea surface temperatures to show you where the Gulf Stream is, but tropical weather, have I got sea surface temperatures here? Doesn't look like it. Sea surface temperatures, wind probabilities. Track. No, that's just all current stuff there. I probably do. Marine tools. Tides, buoys and gulls. We got some buoy data here. But the Gulf Stream is out here right now. The temperatures are going to be along the Gulf Stream are going to be much warmer than they are anywhere else. And so that leads to the ability for you, like it's, yeah, here's the surface temperature, 70 degrees out there. And still out into the water near the Gulf Stream, we got 70 right there. That's just offshore of Charleston, South Carolina, so that's pretty warm. The Gulf Stream is warm. We got 70-degree temperatures out there. And so this is an area where you're into the hurricane season. I mean, it's not boring there during hurricane season because a lot of stuff can happen. So many things can happen there in South Carolina, especially along the eastern coastline. If you've been familiar with it at all, there have been historic hurricanes that move through South Carolina, North Carolina, Hugo. And if you just kind of look at it, I just want you to look at this because there are a lot of theories about this, but I just want you to look at it overall and think about the life of this earth. How old is this earth? And let me just sort of give you some perspective of what I'm talking about. We all think in intervals of 1,000 years or 2,000 years or whatever, but let's think about how old this earth is. I was on, first time I climbed up a mountain there in Colorado, I was on top of Loveland Pass there. And, I was right up there at 12,000 feet going across the path, the path if I've got a lift. But it was going over the path. And you get out and walk. And I walked up there and I sat out and I kicked around in the dirt a little bit. You know what I saw up there at 12,000 feet in the Colorado Rockies? I saw seashells, small seashells in the Colorado Rockies on top of a mountain. And that's when it kind of hit me. Oh, my God, the earth is so old. Now, if you look at this and you... I know I'm talking about a lot of stuff here, and I hope I'm not getting so far off of this. I apologize. But just to talk about it, if you look at that area there, and we were talking about South Carolina, think about the path of hurricanes throughout the last 100,000 years, 200,000 years or whatever, the path of hurricanes. And you know what they want to do because there's a high pressure off to the east over Bermuda. They want to come over here and turn. Does it not look a little bit weird to you folks that that's the same path that a lot of hurricanes take? Is that curvature there that shows up, that little curvature that goes all the way over to here? Does it not look similar to the path of hurricanes over the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years? What do you think made that concave right there? What do you think made that little concave right there? Savannah to Jacksonville. Knowing the path of hurricanes for hundreds of thousands of years. Did that right there. Made you think. I don't even remember what the original question was. Where were we? Wonder if major flood has anything to do with those seashells. Major flood at 12,000 feet? I don't think so. I think like the Sahara Desert, it was once a green, and it was once at sea level. Lizzie, thank you. Are you gone, Lizzie? I know it's late. It's 11:56 here. I said I'd stay on as long as we had 100 concurrent viewers, but Cades Cove. Don't you love Cades Cove, Booger Dog? I love me some Cades Cove there. Yeah, I used to go over there. I went to, maybe you know where Mount LeConte is. I went to Mount LeConte when I was doing the weather. I was a chief meteorologist in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and they sent me over to Mount LeConte, which is the highest mountain over there in eastern Tennessee. And I went over there, and you had to go up by mule. They didn't just let anybody go up. You had to go up by a mule and a horse, and then a mule pulled your things up there, and you stayed for a week or so at Mount LeConte. An amazing place there. Josh, there's a lot up here, buddy. Josh right here. And today is my birthday, so I got a lot of stuff. I'm spewing today outwardly. I apologize for that. Don't you love Cades Cove? Isn't that a beautiful place? Yeah, the fires up there have been pretty bad. The fires, coming out of Gatlinburg, too. I know we had quite a bit of that as well, but, into that area there. And that's so beautiful up there. Cades Cove and Mount LeConte, Mount Mitchell, all the way through the area there, too. Oh, I didn't mean for you to wish me happy birthday. Thank you, though. Thank you for wishing me happy birthday, but that's not why I shouldn't have said that out loud. Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind of you. That's super kind of you. Thank you, Chief Ferraro. Thank you so much. It's very sweet of you. You don't have to donate to the channel. You know what, though? Somebody, my Penny's my chicken. I rescued a chicken a while back, and I got Penny, and somebody donated $5 to her the other day to buy some food for her, and so we bought her some food, and then she actually made me a little bit of money on my little Facebook page the other day, and so we bought her some live worms this time instead of the dead ones, and she's very, very happy. Well, happy birthday to you, Deacon 88. Deacon 88, happy birthday to you. I'm sure I have underwear older than you, though. The Chirahola Skyway, Chirahola, am I saying that right? Chirahola Skyway is one of my favorite places. I'm sorry, I don't know where that's at. Chirahola. My car was under 60 inches of snow on Mountaintop near Ober-Gatlinburg, in Gatlinburg up near 4,000 feet. When was that? Yes, she is a diga. No, we're not talking about donating. Not yet. We're nowhere near donations at this point. What you get? This is a free product for you at the moment. Thank you, though. It's very kind of you. Maybe someday we'll be monetized, but right now we just love talking about the weather. So that's very sweet of you to say. South Cades Cove, headed into North Carolina. Okay, I know where that's at. Back into the 90s. There was a June snow one time up there. There was 60 inches of snow on June the 3rd or something up there, just outside of Cades Cove, a little bit higher up on Black Mountain, actually, I think it was. But big low pressure moved up the Carolinas, up South Carolina, and brought back a ton of snowfall into that area there, just to the western side of North Carolina. So it was really, really nice. Is New Zealand flooding now? I'm not going to tell you I don't have any information from over there, but it doesn't look like I have any. Do I? Hold on. I thought we had radar over there. That's the bigger place. I thought we had data over there, but we don't. Take me full for just a second. Let me see if I can find some. We aim, please, here. Take me full for just a sec. Let's see. New Zealand maps. Let's see, tropical, global. Let's see. Come on. Come on, people now. Precipitation, total precipitation. Let's see what we got. This is New Zealand, Christchurch, into that area there. Can you pull the map back up? Look, hey, you asked for it. I want to show you. Here's New Zealand. That's Christchurch right there into the middle where that heavier rainfall is, the precipitation. I think that's going to be, it's going to be in millimeters. That doesn't tell me crap. Oh, it's all in millimeters. Oh, my God. I don't know if that tells you anything. I don't know. It looks like on the western coast, the northwestern coast, it's pretty bad. 32. What is that? Temperatures, too? No, that's just all in millimeters. 48 millimeters. Stop. That's like 2 inches. 48 millimeters is like 1.9 inches. Well, here's a news article, actually, we could probably show you. We can show the BBC News. Can you throw that up there somehow? There is flooding over there. And this is from... Huh? Yeah, this is from... Oh, this is from BBC News, British Broadcasting. And they're... Let's see, how many? 25 died. Well, this is a person who died because they were kayaking into the flooding. Another person was found in a culvert in an Auckland suburb. So I didn't know about this, but they have had a ton of rainfall there over the past couple of days, it looks like, there in Auckland. But the one person, 2 deaths at the moment. The one person was kayaking in the flooding. So not a very, obviously not a smart thing to be doing, but you don't want anybody to be caught in that. And as far as precipitation goes, there's plenty of it there for the next couple of days. I think this is like a radar image of it. You can see there's a low pressure which is going in the opposite direction down there on the other side of the equator. Low pressure is moving as a cyclone instead of an anticyclone. Stop! What do you want? See where you are. Shh. That's not a real mouse. My cat thinks she's got a real mouse in her mouth. Her name is Poison Ivy. I'm not kidding. And the other one is Jolene. Yep. I don't want to talk about it. There was alcohol involved in one of those. It wasn't me because I don't drink alcohol. Alcoholic beverages. Did we get another question? I wish everyone the best. Same boring weather in Miami-Dade as always. That's true. Miami-Dade, I-95. We're talking about all these cities on the east side of I-95 that did not get any sort of snowfall. Miami's the other one. No snowfall this year. There to the east of I-95 in Miami. You have had a couple of situations there. I think a couple of times. Has it not gotten really cold, record lows, close to Dade? I know. just outside of Dade County, all the way down to the south. What else have we got? Michael says, "Oh Lord," I'm not really sure why. Someone was hitting the shine. No, come to central Pennsylvania if you want some boring weather. Has it been boring in central Pennsylvania? You get a little bit of snow out of this thing, I think, coming on through. This is a snow event for you to some extent. Let's just look at GFS here if we can, and we'll go back to the state aside, if you shall, if you will. Let's go to Pennsylvania and see what's happening here to Pennsylvania. And we'll go with type and see what's happening here. We go forward. Oh, that's weak. There's a little bit of snowfall there. That's not an event. You need low pressure to come in along the Atlantic seaboard. That's not going to happen anytime really soon. There's a little event. That's already lake effect, though. It's not going to be much coming into Pennsylvania there either. That's a rain event coming up. That's got to be rare in February, the early part of February, to see a rain event coming up. Then you got another little thing. This is your first real chance, I think, at seeing some appreciable snowfall. That looks like it's going to be on the, around the 11th. That's 11. That's 12 days away, though, so not really something I would count on. I wouldn't put that in my pocket and walk away with it, but that's a situation where you got low pressure coming out of the Gulf of Mexico that's probably going to bring you some more of a southerly situation. We got cold air there already in place, I think, at that point. But that is a rain event coming through Pennsylvania right there. Let's just look and see what we look like overall here. Let's go back and look at maybe regions here, the U.S., global. Let's go back to North America. No, let's go back to the United States and just kind of look at some of these conditions. Let's look at the temperatures, what the temperatures might look like as far as we go through here. And this is above. These are anomalies, so where you see the red colors, that's where it's above the norm. Where you see the blue colors, we're talking about just below. Where it's purple, you're talking about well below average temperatures here as we move along. So we're kind of in that area. Here comes some really warm air Tuesday, Wednesday that'll be passing on by for the deep south, the eastern coastline. There might be some record highs over here. We'll look at that in just a second. A little area of chilly air there, but that doesn't originate out of the Arctic. And in fact, up into Canada and beyond, that's some super warm air into the weekend coming up there. The really cold air is still locked up back into Canada at this point. And actually looks like we go into the middle of February on a warmer note, on a super warm note there, if you will. The truly cold air mass is well off to the north and doesn't look like it's coming southward anytime really soon. Let's see if we can look at North America here, which might give us a better idea of what's happening up at the poles. Nothing really. That's looks kind of mild here, folks, especially in the eastern United States. Look how super mild it is. It's well above normal into the middle of the month, into the middle of February. What do we got here? Tanya's got a question for us. Let's see this again and not hit send. Try this again and not hit send. What does day 3 and 4 show for South Alabama? If you're talking about the 3 and 4 on the severe weather likelihood, there is none. Those won't come out till a little while later on tonight, but as of early in the day today, day 3 and 4 was not a big deal. This is day 3. I probably shouldn't. I'm afraid to pull it up here, but day 3 and day 4 has not there's no risk here at the moment with either of those. If you're talking about just general weather now, if we're just looking at the weather, days 3 and 4, we'll go to the model here and take a look at that for you for just a second along the Gulf Coast. And what we're still thinking is pretty much the same, is that it's going to be wet here. When does it dry out? I'm sure you want to know that. Reflectivity, everything goes west to east there. Let me stop that. Get a little dry spell there. That's into Tuesday. Wednesday, the rain picks back up again, but across the north. And even though I think you're on the far northern end of all this precipitation, I still think there's a lot of cloud cover there for you along the Gulf Coast going into the next 4 days. I don't think it's totally clear there because the subtropical jet, the southern part of the jet, is going to be very active here and probably end up seeing quite a bit of cloud cover. You might can get rid of, you might can get rid of some of the heavier rainfall that's there, but probably not a lot in the way of getting rid of all that, cloud cover, I wouldn't think. Overall composite reflectivity, what else have I got? I don't have anything else there. What else we got? Haven't seen much change. Looking more like rain into central Alabama. Yeah, it's a rainy event here across central Alabama. There's really no reason to get rid of that just yet. And if you just look at the radar, we're going through the day and into the day on Monday. We get rid of some of the rainfall Monday night. Then it approaches again on Tuesday. This is early on Tuesday there where you see some of it. It's a little bit more linear than that. A lot of it is off to the north of us as far as precipitation on Thursday, though, but then Friday it dips back down to the south. That's when we almost thought we were going to have a little situation here across North Alabama with some of that stuff, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case now. It looks like most of that precipitation is going to be well off to the north. As far as anything frozen, should be well off to the north going into the this weekend that's coming up. And after that, it's a benign forecast. There really isn't a whole lot happening across the country. If you look at it, we're not looking at any kind of a big severe weather event. We still, this whole southerly flow is the big deal here. Low pressure rounds the turn, comes across Los Angeles, rounds the turn, that gets pulled up into this whole system, and that's why we probably have a little bit more of a frozen situation at this point in and across Oklahoma. That's the I-40 region there, 35 that comes out of the Red River, off to the north. That's when you get this mix, this really good mix across central sections of Oklahoma City, which could be very problematic there, and still have a few areas across central Texas where that could be the case as well. But it's really not. This is a nightmare of a forecast because computer models don't have a good handle on the entire, what we call the QPF, the entire liquid amount that'll be coming in. They don't have a good handle on it. Coming in out of the southwest, so it's not like we've initialized this thing coming in out of the Pacific at all. This isn't coming out of the Colorado Rockies. This is moisture coming out of the southwest. So it's a very difficult situation overall to know exactly how much precipitation is going to come through. What are the chances of an ice event in southeastern Oklahoma? Every time I check, it goes from 3 days of ice to no ice. That's true. That's very true, Regina. It's super true, and it depends on which computer model you are looking at, which I know is a sad, sad way of explaining this overall. And we're just going to go with the latest, which is our GFS model. The global model, which just finished up not that long ago. And again, if you go to timing here, there's a little bit coming through during the day on Tuesday. This is noontime on Tuesday when you start to see some of that coming in Tuesday into the eastern side of the state, and then another little round comes in for the very southeastern part along the Red River there. This is projected to be too warm to be frozen. By the GFS, it says that's all rainfall there. Where you see the green, that's all rain, I-40 down to the south. But that's still up for grabs at the moment. I think that might be a situation where it's just not seeing the cold air very much at all. And we don't know exactly how much is there either as far as the precipitation goes. Somebody asked me about the Euro a few minutes ago. We don't have the Euro in yet. The only Euro is from early this morning at 12Z. So it's kind of got the idea, the Euro does, that it's a little bit colder in some areas, but not so much in others. And the precipitation is going to be a liquid form pretty far down to the south. Let's just go back while I was here. Let's go back and look and see what the Euro might say. And if I can look at it in a little bit more detail, the 18Z Euro is in there, I think. And let's go to there into the regions and go into the central and southern part of the U.S. So the Euro has, if you look at precipitation here, let's look at winter stuff. See what the sleet total is. The Euro has sleet across the northern portions of Texas, all the way across central Oklahoma, as a small amount. It doesn't have a large QPF there, and what I mean by that is
the total amount. There's a half inch or so up there near Branson. That would be bad. Now you start talking about weight when you get a half inch to an inch of frozen sleet, but freezing rain would be more detrimental. And this is when you get a half inch or so around Memphis. If that comes to reality, that would be really, really bad there too. Or now this is the GFS, and this brings some of this stuff all the way down into central Texas here, some of this freezing rain into central Texas, which that would be horrible too. When does it do that? Really starts to do that during the latter part of the day on Monday. Let me go back and see if I can show you this in a different form here. No, I can't. I know I can't because... Let's see if I can. We only had freezing rain, though. We didn't. Yeah, we sort of went through this a little bit earlier. The GFS does have the frozen deal pretty far down here like that, down to the south. And if you've got any of that around Fort Worth, anything that's frozen like there, it's going to be really tough to drive. Right now, and it's sort of spelling out a bullseye there across I-40 out of Little Rock back over to Memphis into that region there, too. South of St. Louis, yeah. I don't see anything like that into St. Louis, actually. I mean, if anything, that would be a little bit of snow falling into St. Louis. As far as the precipitation type goes, that would be in the form of snowfall there. But it's a little bit. It's not a lot. And you can see it's right on the northern fringes of this whole thing as it comes on by. There's just not much moisture available with it as it does that. Doesn't get up that far. Bang. Yep, that's why you're staying at home. What else have we got? All right. I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for being with me tonight. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the happy birthdays. I do appreciate that as well. Dragonfly says we did get a couple of inches last week. Stormy weather in Pennsylvania happens in Erie, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and misses most of the middle part. Yeah, you say that, and then sometimes that College Station area just gets pummeled. It just depends on where, what time of the year you're talking about. At State College, College Station, State College, the Altoona, that corridor up through there. You can get pummeled there, Williamsport, Scranton. The rest of the area. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And we'll be checking back in with you during the day tomorrow. I don't know where Brett is going at this point. I'm not really sure. He's probably going to wait and see what's happening there into western Tennessee probably. The Memphis play is kind of, there. It's kind of what it is. And it's locally one of those things that we do well. And Jarvis is going to be out as well tomorrow. He's going to have some information. He'll have some pictures for us as well. Our man behind the microphone for tonight. So appreciate you being with me tonight, and we'll be talking to you again here pretty soon. I hope you have a good night tonight. Everybody sleeps well. It's raining here. I got a tin roof, so I got no troubles tonight when it comes to sleeping. Have a good one. I don't know why I saluted. I don't ever salute. On a wave. I'm going to wave, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.